The stars shone brightly through the wide windows of the Hope's horizon. Captain Do-hyun Kim stood with perfect posture, his dark uniform crisp and neat. Today was a big day for all humans. For the first time, people from Earth would meet beings from another world. "Captain, we are approaching the meeting point," said Lieutenant Ji-woo Park. Her voice was calm, but her eyes showed excitement. Do-hyun nodded. "Thank you, Lieutenant. Is our welcome message ready?" "Yes, sir. Communications. Officer Choi has prepared it exactly as Earth Command instructed." Do-hyun walked to the center of the bridge. The Hope's horizon was not very big or impressive. It was just a diplomatic ship, built to show peaceful intentions. Earth had only been traveling in space for about 100 years. They were new to the stars compared to many other species. "All crew, this is Captain Kim," he said into the ship's communication system. "In 30 minutes, we will meet the Viridian Empire representatives. Remember your training, be respectful, be careful, but most of all, be proud. We represent all of humanity today." Tae-yeon Choi, the communications officer, turned in her seat. "Captain, I'm receiving a message from the Viridian ships. They want to speak with you." On screen, Do-hyun said. The main screen filled with the image of an alien. It was tall, at least 7 feet, with skin that looked like metal. Its eyes were yellow with thin black lines instead of round pupils. This was a Viridian. "I am Grand Admiral Kalvor of the Viridian Empire," the alien said. Its voice was deep and had a strange echo. "You will follow our lead ship to the meeting area. Do not change your speed or direction. Any unusual movement will be seen as a threat." Do-hyun bowed slightly. "Grand Admiral, I am Captain Do-hyun Kim of Earth's Diplomatic Corps. We understand and will follow your instructions. We come in peace and friendship." The alien made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Peace and friendship, yes. We shall see what your species has to offer the galaxy." The screen went dark. Ji-woo frowned. "That didn't seem very friendly, Captain." "No, it didn't," Do-hyun agreed. "But we must remember, Lieutenant, that different species have different ways. What seems rude to us might be normal for them." 3 hours later, the Hope's horizon docked with the Viridian lead ship. It was huge, at least 20 times bigger than the Earth vessel. Its sides glowed with strange lights and its weapons were clearly visible. Do-hyun led a small team from his ship. Besides him were Lieutenant Ji-woo Park, Communications Officer Tae-yeon Choi, and 2 security officers. They walked through a long hallway with high ceilings built for the taller Viridians. They entered a large room where about 30 Viridians waited. All were dressed in armor-like clothing with many decorations that probably showed their rank and achievements. Grand Admiral Kalvor stepped forward. Up close, he was even more impressive and scary. His exoskeleton gleamed under the bright lights. "Welcome to the Eternal Victory," he said. "I hope your journey was not too difficult for your simple ship." Do-hyun smiled politely. "Thank you for your concern, Grand Admiral. Our journey was quite comfortable." Kalvor walked around the human group, looking at them from all sides. "So small," he said. "So soft. It is hard to believe you managed to build ships that can travel between stars." Tae-yeon's face turned slightly red, but she kept quiet as Do-hyun had instructed all of them to do if the alien said something that might seem insulting. "We are a young spacefaring species," Do-hyun admitted. "But we are eager to learn and share knowledge with the galactic community." This made many of the Viridians laugh. The sound was like metal scraping against metal. "Share knowledge?" Kalvor said. "What knowledge could you possibly share with us? Our civilization was building cities in space when your ancestors were still living in caves." Ji-woo noticed something strange. While Kalvor was talking and making fun of humans, other Viridians were using devices to scan the humans and their equipment. They seemed frustrated by the results. "Perhaps we could show you our ship," Do-hyun suggested. "It may be simple by your standards, but—" "Yes," Kalvor interrupted. "We would very much like to see your ship." The tour of the Hope's horizon was uncomfortable. The Viridians touched everything, scanned everything, and laughed at almost everything. "This is your engine room?" one Viridian officer said. "It's so Primitive. How does this ship even move? Your weapons are just slightly better than throwing rocks. Another one said, examining the ship's defensive systems. Calvor stopped in front of the ship's main computer. Your species is barely out of its cradle, he announced loudly, so all could hear. Your vessels would shatter against our weakest shields. You have nothing to offer the galactic community. Do-hyun maintained his calm smile, though it was becoming harder. We understand we have much to learn, Grand Admiral. At least you understand that much, Calvor said. The Viridian Empire will consider what relationship, if any, we wish to have with Earth. We will contact you again in 3 of your months. After the Viridians left, Do-hyun called his officers for a meeting. That was difficult, he said. Ji-woo nodded. Captain, they were scanning us extensively, but they seemed frustrated by something. It was like they couldn't get all the readings they wanted. Taeyeon held up her small recording device. I have recorded everything they said. They revealed a lot of information about their technology while they were boasting. Do-hyun looked out the window at the massive Viridian ships. I don't think they see us as equals or even as potential friends. They see us as something else. As what, sir? Asked Ji-woo. I'm not sure yet, Do-hyun said. But I think Earth Command will want to hear about this meeting right away. Taeyeon, prepare a full report with all recordings. Ji-woo, I want an analysis of their scanning attempts. As the Hope's Horizon prepared to return to Earth, Do-hyun couldn't shake the feeling that the Viridians were hiding something. They had mocked humans openly, but there was something behind their laughter. Was it curiosity, or something worse? He didn't know yet, but he was sure that this first meeting was just the beginning. And somehow, he felt that the next time humans and Viridians met, things would be very different. Little did the Viridians know that humanity had secrets of its own, secrets that would soon change everything. The Hope's Horizon landed at the main Earth spaceport near the Pacific Ocean. Captain Do-hyun Kim and his crew were tired after their journey back from meeting the Viridians, but they knew their work was just beginning. Captain, there's a message for you, said Taeyeon Choi. Military Intelligence Director Na-young Kang wants to meet with you right away. Do-hyun nodded. Thank you, Officer Choi. Lieutenant Park, please make sure all the data from our meeting with the Viridians is secured properly. Yes, sir, Ji-woo replied. I've noticed something strange in their scanning patterns. It's like they were looking for something specific. Include that in your report, Do-hyun said. I want the director to have all the information. 2 hours later, Do-hyun entered a plain-looking building in the government district. After passing through several security checks, he was led to a large meeting room. Director Na-young Kang was already there, looking at screens filled with data. Captain Kim, she said, standing to greet him. Thank you for coming so quickly. Your initial report is very concerning. Na-young was a small woman with short gray hair and sharp eyes. She had worked in intelligence for over 30 years and was known for seeing patterns others missed. The Viridians weren't just rude, Na-young continued. They were gathering information, and based on what we know about them, this is a pattern. She touched a screen, and images of 3 different alien species appeared. The Viridian Empire has taken over 3 smaller species in the past 10 years, she explained. Each time they followed the same steps. First, they made friendly contact. Then they demanded resources. Finally, they used military force to take control. Do-hyun felt a chill. You think they plan to do the same to Earth? I'm almost certain, Na-young said. Which is why it's time you learned about Project Shadow. She pressed a button, and part of the floor opened up. An elevator appeared. What you're about to see is known to only 200 people on Earth, Na-young said as they stepped into the elevator. Not even the regular military knows about it. The elevator went down for a long time. When the doors finally opened, Do-hyun was shocked to see a huge underground facility. It looked like a military base, but unlike any he had seen before. They walked down a long hallway until they reached another meeting room. Inside, a man in an admiral's uniform was waiting. Captain Kim, meet Admiral Sang-ho Lee, Na-young said. He leads Project Shadow. Admiral Lee shook Do-hyun's hand. Your meeting with the Viridians confirms what we've feared. We don't have much time. Time for what, sir? Do-hyun asked. To finish our preparations, Lee answered. He touched a wall panel, and one wall turned into a giant screen. It showed what looked like a spaceship, but unlike any Do-hyun had ever seen. It was sleek and black with strange lines that seemed to bend in impossible ways. This is the EFS Phantom, Admiral Lee said proudly. Earth's first and only stealth warship. Do-hyun looked confused. Stealth? You mean it has reduced heat signatures? Na-young smiled. No, Captain. We mean true cloaking, invisible to all known. Detection methods, but that's impossible, Do-hyun said. The physics that most people know, yes, said a new voice. A woman had entered the room quietly. But we've been working with different physics for 30 years. This is Chief Engineer Min-ji Baek, Admiral Lee said. She's one of the main designers of the Phantom. Min-ji pushed her glasses up. Captain, are you familiar with quantum displacement theory? Only as a theoretical concept, Do-hyun admitted. Most scientists say it's impossible in practice. Most scientists don't have access to the research we do, Min-ji said. She pointed to the ship on the screen. The Phantom exists in a quantum superposition state. It's technically present, but undetectable and untraceable. Do-hyun looked from the screen to the three serious faces watching him. You're saying we have technology far beyond what we showed the Viridians? Exactly, Admiral Lee said. The ship you commanded, the Hope's Horizon, was designed to look somewhat primitive. We wanted to see how the Viridians would react to a seemingly young space species. And they reacted exactly as we feared, Na-young added. They see us as easy targets. A door opened and a man in a captain's uniform entered. He was tall with broad shoulders and a serious face. Captain Kim, this is Captain Hyun-woo Yoon, Admiral Lee said. He commands the Phantom. The two captains shook hands. How long have you been hiding? Do-hyun asked. The Phantom has been operational for 3 years, Captain Yoon answered. But the technology has been in development for much longer. Min-ji stepped forward again. The Viridians couldn't get complete scans of your ship because we've developed materials that disrupt their scanning technology. But that's nothing compared to what the Phantom can do. She touched the screen, and it showed a different image. Stars and empty space. Where's the ship? Do-hyun asked. Min-ji smiled. It's right there. Watch. She pressed another button, and suddenly the black ship appeared in the center of the screen. The Viridians haven't found us because they can't. The Phantom doesn't reflect light, emit heat, or disturb space in conventional ways. We're hiding in plain sight. Do-hyun sat down heavily in a chair. All this time, while most of Earth thought we were just beginning space exploration, a small group has been preparing for exactly this scenario, Admiral Lee finished. We've known about other species, including the Viridians, for decades. We've watched them, studied them, and we knew the day would come when they found Earth. Na-young looked at her watch. The Viridians said they would contact us again in 3 months. Based on their pattern with other species, they'll return with demands and warships. And what do we do then? Do-hyun asked. Captain Yoon's face was hard and determined. Then we show them that humanity is not as helpless as they think. Admiral, Lee nodded. Captain Kim, you've been selected to join Project Shadow. Your experience with the Viridians is valuable. You'll work with Captain Yoon to prepare for their return. Do-hyun looked around the room, at these people who had been keeping such enormous secrets. The fate of Earth might depend on what they did in the next 3 months. When do we start? He asked. Right now, Admiral Lee answered. Let me show you the Phantom up close, and then we have a lot of work to do. As they left the room, Do-hyun thought about how the Viridians had mocked humans for being primitive and weak. They had no idea what was waiting for them, and when they found out, it would be too late. 3 months passed quickly. On Earth, most people went about their daily lives with no idea of what was coming. They knew about the first meeting with the Viridians, of course. The news had shown pictures of the alien ships and the strange beings, with metal-like skin. But the public reports had been positive, talking about new friendships among the stars and exciting opportunities for trade. Only a few hundred people knew the truth. In the hidden base under the Pacific Ocean, Captain Do-hyun Kim had spent every day learning about the EFS Phantom and its technology. Today he stood with Captain Hyun-woo Yoon on the bridge of the secret ship. "The quantum displacement drive is amazing," Do-hyun said. "I still can hardly believe it works." Hyun-woo smiled slightly. "It took us 20 years to get it working properly. The first tests didn't go well." "What happened?" "The test ship disappeared as planned," Hyun-woo explained. "But it reappeared 3 miles away and 2 days later than it should have. The math was very complicated." Chief Engineer Min-ji Baek joined them. "The early versions of the drive made people sick too. The quantum effects messed with the human body." "But it's safe now?" Do-hyun asked. "Completely," Min-ji assured him. "We've solved all the problems. The Phantom can appear and disappear at will, and the crew feels nothing more than a slight tingle." An alarm sounded suddenly. Admiral Sang-ho Lee's voice came over the communication system. "All officers to the command center immediately," he said. "The Viridian fleet has returned to Earth orbit." 10 minutes later, the top officers of Project Shadow were gathered around a large table. On screens around the room they could see the Viridian ships. This time there were more of them. 5 ships, Director Na Young-kang said. 1 diplomatic vessel and 4 warships. Each warship is 3 times bigger than anything Earth has, officially built. "They're not even pretending to be friendly anymore," Admiral Lee said. "They've positioned their ships to cover major cities across the planet." A new image appeared on the main screen. It was Grand Admiral Kalvor, looking even more intimidating than before. "People of Earth," he said. His voice was being broadcast to governments around the world. "The Viridian Empire has considered your position in the galactic community. We have decided to extend our protection to your world." Na-young snorted. "Protection? That's what they always call it." Kalvor continued. "In exchange for our protection, we require access to 40% of your planet's rare minerals. We will also establish military bases on all continents to ensure your safety." Admiral Lee's face turned dark with anger. "They want to strip our planet and occupy it at the same time." "You have 24 hours to agree to our terms," Kalvor said. "If you refuse, we will be forced to take more direct measures for your protection." The screen went dark. The room was silent for a moment. "They're threatening to attack if we don't surrender," Do-hyun said. "Yes," Admiral Lee agreed. "And according to our public military analysis, Earth's combined forces couldn't last 2 days against their technology." In another part of the building, the United Earth Defense Council had gathered for an emergency meeting. The room was full of military leaders, politicians, and scientists. Most looked terrified. "We can't fight ships like that," one general shouted. "They would destroy our cities in hours." "Maybe we should agree to their terms," a politician suggested. "At least for now. Buy time to build up our defenses." "They would never let us build up anything," another military leader argued. "Once they have bases here, they would control everything we do." President Jun Seo-yoon sat at the head of the table. Unlike the others, he looked calm. He had been briefed about Project Shadow when he took office. He knew what most of these people did not. "We need more time to discuss this," the president announced. "I will tell the Viridians we need the full 24 hours to consider their offer." As the others continued to argue, President Yoon slipped out of the room. In a private office, he activated a special communication system. It was not connected to any regular network. It was a quantum-encrypted channel that couldn't be detected or hacked. He sent one short message. "Nightfall protocol activated." Around the world, 12 people received this message. Each of them knew exactly what to do. At the edge of the solar system, far from any usual patrol routes, the EFS Phantom waited in its cloaked state. Inside, the crew of 200 elite personnel had been on standby for weeks. Captain Hyun-woo Yoon was in his quarters when the message arrived. He read it once, then deleted it. Walking quickly to the bridge, he activated the ship-wide communication system. "All hands, this is Captain Yoon," he said. "Nightfall protocol has been activated. We are beginning Operation Reveal. All crew to battle stations. The crew moved with calm efficiency. They had trained for this moment for years. There was no panic, no confusion. Everyone knew their job. Lieutenant Sujin Kwan, the weapons officer, powered up the quantum displacement cannons. These weapons were like nothing the Viridians had ever seen. They could hit targets that were behind shields because they partly existed in another dimension. Weapons at full power, Captain, Sujin reported. All systems green. Chief Engineer Minji checked the ship's special hull. The adaptive metamaterial could absorb energy from attacks and use it to power the ship's systems. It also bent light around the ship, making it truly invisible, not just hidden from sensors. Hull integrity at 100%, Captain, she said. Cloaking, systems functioning perfectly. In the navigation center, Officer Jae-Sung-Oh plotted the course that would bring them right behind the Viridian fleet. The Phantom's engines made no detectable disturbance in space. They could move faster than any other ship and leave no trace. Course laid in, Captain, Jae-Sung reported. Estimated arrival time, 6 hours before the Viridian deadline. Captain, Yoon sat in his command chair. For years he had wondered if this day would ever come. Many people had hoped that humans could join the galactic community peacefully, but the Viridians had made that impossible. Begin approach, he ordered. Maintain cloak. Communications. Monitor all Viridian channels. I want to know everything, they're saying to each other. As the Phantom moved toward Earth, Captain Yoon thought about what would happen when they revealed themselves. The Viridians thought they were dealing with a weak, primitive species. They had no idea what was coming. They mocked us, he said quietly to himself. Now they'll learn what humanity is really capable of. The 24-hour deadline was almost over. Around the world, people looked up at the sky with fear. The Viridian ships were visible even in daylight, huge, dark shapes hanging in the air. News channels showed nothing else. Religious leaders called for prayer. Some people tried to leave big cities thinking they would be the first targets. In space, the Viridian fleet moved into attack formation around Earth. Their weapons were ready. Grand Admiral Calvor stood on the bridge of his flagship, feeling confident. He had done this before with other worlds. They always gave in when they saw his fleet, and if they didn't, they soon learned their mistake. Open a channel to their leaders, Calvor ordered. Let's see if the humans are smart enough to survive. On Earth, President Jun Seo-yoon sat in his office. A large screen showed the waiting face of Grand Admiral Calvor. The president looked calm despite the pressure. Human leader, Calvor said. Your time is up. What is your answer? President Yoon stood up straight. Grand Admiral, I speak for all the people of Earth. We have considered your offer carefully. Calvor's yellow eyes narrowed. He expected the usual speech about peace and cooperation, followed by surrender. The people of Earth reject your terms completely, President Yoon said firmly. We will not surrender our sovereignty or our resources. Calvor was surprised for a moment. Then he laughed, a harsh metallic sound. Then you have chosen extinction. Your primitive defenses cannot. Suddenly, his image froze. The Viridian Admiral looked to the side, and his face showed confusion. Someone off-screen was speaking to him urgently. On the bridge of the Viridian flagship, alarms were sounding. Admiral, our sensors are detecting a massive energy spike, a Viridian officer reported. It's behind our fleet. What? Show me, Calvor demanded. The main screen changed to show the space behind his fleet. At first, there was nothing there. Then, like a ghost taking form, a ship appeared. It was black and sleek, with lines that seemed to bend in ways that hurt the eyes. It was nearly as large as the Viridian flagship, but looked nothing like any ship Calvor had ever seen. Impossible, he whispered. Where did it come from? Behind the Viridian fleet, the EFS Phantom had decloaked. On its bridge, Captain Hyun-woo, Yoon stood tall and proud. Open a channel to all Viridian ships, he ordered. Communications Officer Yoon Ji-han nodded. Channel open, sir. Captain Yoon spoke clearly and confidently. This is Captain Hyun-woo Yoon of the Earth Fleet Ship Phantom. You have threatened a sovereign world under our protection. Power down your weapons and withdraw. or we will demonstrate capabilities your sensors cannot comprehend." On his flagship, Calvor was furious. This couldn't be happening. The humans were primitive. Their ships were simple and weak. Where had this vessel come from? It's a trick, he decided. One ship cannot challenge a fleet, launch fighters and charge weapons. Viridian fighters poured out of the larger ships, small but deadly craft that moved quickly toward the Phantom. At the same time, the larger ships turned to bring their main weapons to bear. On the Phantom, Captain Yoon remained calm. "They're attacking as expected. Chief Engineer Bayek, activate the absorption hull." "Absorption hull active, Captain," Minji responded. The first wave of Viridian weapons fire hit the Phantom. Bright beams of energy struck the black ship and simply vanished. There was no explosion, no damage. The energy disappeared into the strange material of the hull. In the weapons center, Lieutenant Sujin Kwan watched her displays. "Hull absorption at 40%, Captain. Energy being redirected to our systems. Weapons power increasing." Captain Yoon nodded. "Target the 2 flanking warships. Disable their engines and weapons only. No destruction." "Targeting systems locked," Su Jin reported. "Quantum displacement cannons ready." "Fire," Captain Yoon ordered. The Phantom released 2 pulses of energy unlike anything the Viridians had seen before. The pulses seemed to fade in and out of existence as they traveled. When they reached the Viridian ships they passed through, the shields as if they weren't there. The 2 warships suddenly lost power. Their lights went out and they began to drift. On the Viridian flagship, panic was spreading. "The unyielding force and the eternal conqueror are completely disabled," an officer reported. "Their engines, weapons, and communications are all down. Their life support is barely functioning." "How?" Calvor demanded. "How did they get through our shields?" No one had an answer. Another officer spoke up. "Admiral, the human ship is not like anything in our database. Its hull composition is unknown. Our weapons seem to have no effect." Calvor was stunned. This couldn't be happening. The humans were supposed to be weak and helpless. Where had they gotten such technology? The human ship fired again. This time, the pulse hit Calvor's flagship. The bridge lights flickered but stayed on. However, the weapons systems went offline. "Admiral," the weapons officer said, his voice shaking, "our main weapons are disabled. The human vessel somehow targeted just our weapon systems with surgical precision." On the Phantom, Sujin looked up from her console. "Direct hit on their weapons, Captain. Their flagship is disarmed but still has engine power and life support." Captain Yoon nodded with satisfaction. "Open the channel again." On the Viridian, flagship Calvor saw the human captain's face appear on his screen. The human looked calm and confident. "Admiral Calvor," Captain Yoon said, "2 of your ships are completely disabled. Your flagship is disarmed. You have 1 warship left. Is this demonstration sufficient? Or do you require more proof of our capabilities?" Calvor was speechless. How could this be happening? The humans were supposed to be primitive. They had shown no signs of advanced technology during the first contact. "What is this trickery?" he finally demanded. "You showed us simple ships, weak weapons, basic technology." Captain Yoon smiled slightly. "What we showed you was what we wanted you to see, Admiral. The Hope's horizon was designed to appear primitive. We've been watching your empire for decades. We know how you operate." Calvor felt cold fear for the first time in many years. The humans had tricked them. They had technology that the Viridians couldn't understand. And they had been watching, waiting, and planning all this time. "We will not be conquered like the others," Captain Yoon continued. "The Viridian Empire's days of expansion through intimidation are over." As Calvor struggled to respond, a new alarm sounded on his bridge. "Admiral," his sensor officer said, voice trembling, "we're detecting 3 more quantum signatures identical to the human ship. Around the Viridian fleet, 3 more Earth vessels decloaked, appearing out of nowhere. They had been there all along, invisible and waiting." Calvor knew then that the Viridian Empire had made a terrible mistake. Grand Admiral Calvor stared at the main screen of his flagship. His mighty fleet was surrounded by 4 Earth ships that had appeared out of nowhere. 2 of his warships were completely disabled. His own flagship had no working weapons. And the humans had done all this without destroying a single Viridian vessel or taking a single life. It was unlike any battle he had ever fought. It wasn't even a battle. It was a demonstration. "Admiral," his second-in-command said quietly, "what are your orders?" For the first time in his long career, Calvor had no answer. The Viridian Empire had conquered many worlds. They had always been the strongest, the most advanced. But now, "Open a channel to the human ship," he finally said. On the bridge of the EFS Phantom, Captain Hyun-Woo Yoon watched as Grand Admiral Calvor's face appeared on the screen. The Viridian leader looked different now. The arrogance was gone from his yellow eyes. "Captain Yoon," Calvor said stiffly, "the Viridian Empire acknowledges your impressive technology. Perhaps we can discuss new terms." Captain Yoon shook his head. "No, Admiral. We will not be discussing terms as you understand them. The time for that is past." He stood tall, speaking not just for his ship, but for all of humanity. "The Viridian Empire will recognize Earth's sovereignty and all human colonies. You will provide fair compensation to the 3 species you've taken over in the past 10 years. And you will acknowledge humanity as equals in all galactic matters." Calvor's metal-like face showed anger. "You presume to dictate terms to the Viridian Empire? Even with your ships, you cannot stand against our entire fleet if we call for reinforcements." Captain Yoon smiled slightly. "Admiral, your reinforcements would face the same surprise you did. We have more ships like the Phantom. Some are patrolling your Empire's borders right now. Some are near your homeworld, you just can't see them." He let this sink in before continuing. "We hid our true capabilities not out of fear, but wisdom. We've observed your Empire's expansion for decades. The Hope's Horizon diplomatic mission was merely a formal courtesy while we completed our assessment of your civilization's intentions." His ship Calvor felt cold dread spreading through him. The humans had been watching the Viridians for decades. Had ships like these been invisible in Viridian space all this time? "This is not possible," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Look out your viewport, Admiral," Captain Yoon suggested. As Calvor turned, he saw something happening to one of the human ships. Its black surface seemed to shimmer, and then the ship simply vanished. One moment it was there, the next it was gone. "Our sensors detect nothing where that ship was," a Viridian officer reported, his voice shaking. Captain Yoon continued calmly. "The ship is still there, Admiral. You just can't see or detect it. We call it quantum displacement technology. It allows our ships to exist partially in another dimension." He let Calvor absorb this information before delivering his final point. "You have 2 choices, Admiral. Return to your empire with the knowledge that humanity is not what you thought. Begin a new relationship based on mutual respect. Or test our resolve further and face the consequences." For a long moment there was silence. Then Calvor straightened his tall frame. "I will take your proposal to the Viridian High Command. We will withdraw from Earth space immediately." "A wise decision, Admiral," Captain Yoon said. "We will help repair your disabled ships enough for them to return home, and we will be watching to ensure the changes we discussed are implemented." After the communication ended, Captain Yoon turned to his crew. "Well done, everyone. Prepare to assist the disabled Viridian ships." Lieutenant Soo-Jin Kwon stepped forward. "Captain, do you think they'll honor the agreement? The Viridians have never treated other species as equals before. They've never had to," Captain Yoon replied. "But they'll adapt. The alternative is too costly for them to consider." 2 days later, the Viridian fleet left Earth orbit. On the Phantom, Captain Yoon watched them go. Chief Engineer Minji Baek joined him on the bridge. "The quantum displacement drives on all 4 ships performed perfectly," she reported. "No fluctuations, no energy spikes. We've finally mastered the technology." Captain Yoon nodded. "Good work, Minji. Your team has done the impossible." "What happens now?" she asked. "Now the real work begins," Captain Yoon said. "Project Shadow goes public. Earth takes its place in the galactic community. not as a newcomer to be pushed around but as a power to be respected. In the weeks that followed, news of the confrontation with the Viridians spread throughout the galaxy. The story was told and retold, how the seemingly weak humans had hidden their true capabilities, how their ships had appeared out of nowhere, and how they had disabled the mighty Viridian fleet without destroying a single ship. Other species who had lived under the threat of Viridian expansion began to reach out to Earth. They wanted treaties, trade agreements, and protection. The galactic balance of power was shifting. 1 month after the confrontation, Captain Yoon and Captain Kim stood in President Yoon's office. Through the large windows, they could see the Phantom, now visible for all to see, floating above the capital city. Reports from our ships near Viridian space indicate they're already making changes, President Yoon said. They've withdrawn forces from 2 occupied worlds and have begun talks with species they previously ignored. They're adapting quickly, Captain Kim observed. Fear is a powerful motivator, Captain Yoon said, but I hope it will eventually be replaced by respect. President Yoon looked thoughtful. The question now is, what kind of galactic power will Earth become? We could follow the Viridian example and use our technology to dominate others. That was never the plan, Admiral Sang-Ho Lee said, joining them. Project Shadow was created to ensure humanity's survival, not to make us conquerors. Captain Yoon walked to the window and looked at his ship. The difference between us and the Viridians is that we never wanted to rule through fear. We just needed to ensure we wouldn't be ruled by others. The latest reports showed the Viridian Empire beginning internal debates, the first in their 1,000-year history. Their view of the galaxy and their place in it was changing. Sometimes, Captain Kim said, the most effective show of strength isn't destruction or domination. It's the restrained hand that could strike, but chooses a better path. As night fell, Captain Yoon returned to the Phantom. On the observation deck, he looked out at the stars. For centuries, humans had wondered if they were alone in the universe. Then they had wondered if they could survive in a universe filled with older, more advanced species. Now they had their answer. Humanity would not just survive among the stars. They would thrive. And it had all begun with aliens who mocked them, until the hidden ship decloaked.